Brandy, you're back.
I'm back.
God bless it.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Do you have a word for this year? I think your word for this year should be scrappy.
It really should be. I think my word this year is present. Just being present. There's so much going on in our lives, no matter what's happening. And I feel like so frequently I kind of forget to just be there in the moment. So my word this year is just going to be present. Being present in whatever's happening. Like when I'm at a ribbon cutting, just being there and enjoying it and celebrating that moment. Right. And when I'm home with my kids, enjoying those moments.
Yeah, I worked really hard last year to have the hours of 5 to 8 where I leave my phone. We have one of the a wall mounted file folder essentially in our garage, and we put sunscreen and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's where our shoes are. So it's if you're going out in the summer, you grab the sunscreen, spray yourself, do whatever. But I leave my phone in there when I'm coming inside so that I don't even have my phone inside. Right. It's not I'm oh, it's on the table, but it's.
That's a really nice rule.
Yeah. And from 5 to 8, I walk around with a little binder, a little trail guide thing, right? Just a little piece of paper and a pencil in my back pocket. And when I think of something, I'm and where I would otherwise reach for my phone and take action, I just write down what to do. And then at 8 o'clock, I break the seal and I just get my to-do list done.
That is such a good idea.
It really helps you because your phone's not even there. You don't see it. You don't feel it in your pocket. And if you have something you get anxious, just write it down and be I will take care of this in 65 minutes from now.
And it's not that's going to make or break your timeline.
Yeah.
I have to text this person right now.
Almost nothing. Almost no emergencies happen between 5 and 8. And if you're worried about it, you can have your spouse go check your phone. Right? Which is what I do. Because I take off Saturday night to Sunday night. And I will leave my phone complete, I won't even go look at it. So I'll have my wife, so I'm hey, hon, can you go check to make sure there's no emergency? She'll come back, she's everything's fine. Great. And I just move on with it. It's very, very liberating.
That's nice. Yeah. I think I told you, because we were texting one day and I was I'm so sorry I didn't respond. I was, MIA from my phone for the day. It was revolutionary.
Yeah.
The fact that that I think is why present is my word, is I was able to actually experience being cell phone free for that day. And it was awe-inspiring.
How funny is it?
I miss not having technology. I miss the days when our internet was hardwired and you had to run home to go to AOL. I gotta get home. I gotta IM all my friends and put my weird.
Do you remember IM? Oh, so great. Yeah, and I think in acknowledging that, we just need to realize that look, you can make that happen. Mm-hmm. It was nice when we didn't have a choice.
Yes.
And now it feels like we also don't have a choice because we have that relentless pull, but we have a choice, right? Mm-hmm. When it wasn't here and we didn't have the tech, we didn't even know, right? Didn't matter. Right. But now the tech is here and we just have to realize listen, it's not I like ice cream too, but it's not going to be good if all you do is eat ice cream. Yes. That's how I view this. It's this is like eating potato chips. When I do let myself splurge, because again, I don't spend time on social media. Mm-hmm. And I also try to not spend time anxiety refreshing, either your mail or your, social media feeds or because I'll find myself in a loop where I'm I've refreshed 3 times and I keep moving around. It's wait, what am I doing? This is not, there's nothing, if there was something important, you would have found it. But just making it so it's not going to be good if you do this.
Absolutely.
Right.
What's your word of the year, by the way?
Oh my God. So there was I saw the Mad Max movie, Furiosa.
Okay. I haven't seen any of them.
Fury Road was great. Furiosa was also great.
They should make the next one Furiani. Get it?
That'd be great.
Ding.
What I found really interesting actually is Mad Max, the saga has always been about you had Mel Gibson, Road Warrior and Thunderdome and things like that. Always post-apocalyptic. I didn't even think about this till this point. The Fury Road was a new Mad Max, right? And with a new male protagonist. Furiosa was a female heroine. I hadn't even thought about that. So there was no Mad Max in the most recent Mad Max show.
There's a Mad Maxine.
Mad Maxine, and her name was Furiosa. And it was fantastic. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it was actually a prequel in the Mad Max Fury Road that came out in 2015. There's the Mad Max character, and then there's this protagonist, this gal who only has an arm severed at her elbow and then a full arm. She has this like crazy prosthetic. It's like steampunk.
Like a pirate.
Yeah. And she's like crazy because she has this like claw grip thing and it's wild. And she's like super crazy. So the Furiosa is her origin story, right? Like where she
cool.
came. Yeah. So it's super cool. But the point is like, here's this kid, you see this initial scene where and again, it's post-apocalyptic and she's, like in this area that actually has water and trees and stuff. And these people find it. And then they steal her, they kidnap her, and her mom goes out, gets on a motorcycle, kills this guy, grabs his motorcycle and goes after them with this rifle. And they're like, under no circumstance can they know that this place exists, because they were trying to hide their little Eden from like all the guys who were like living all nasty, right? So she goes out to save Furiosa, that's the girl, and they end up catching the mom and they kill her and they make her like watch, because Furiosa will not tell them, the girl will not tell them where the green place is, right? And so they like burn the mother at the stake and like, watch, honey, watch, just tell us where it is. And she won't do it, right? Anyway, so she goes through this, kind of succession of ownership essentially. And she, becomes this person who, has a place in this apocalyptic world, right? And she becomes the person who drives like this war rig. They essentially make this rig that goes to the bullet farm and it goes to Gasoline Town, because there are a couple different strongholds in this apocalypse, wasteland, right? Okay. Theirs is the Citadel, and they have powered generator pumps that draw off an aquifer and they can grow things, right? So they produce food. And then the bullet farm is like this mining place where they make bullets and gunpowder. So
they essentially trade resources.
Yes, exactly. And to get there, you have to drive this war rig, because there are all these scavengers that are trying to like steal what you're carting around, right? Yeah. Anyway, so she becomes the driver of this war rig. And towards the end of the movie, there's this like breakaway clan that takes over Gastown, then takes over the bullet farm, and they're like terrible and running everything into the ground. And it's this whole big problem. Okay. And then they come to take over the Citadel where all the food is grown and usher in this like 40-day war, whatever. And at the end, the guy in charge of that is the one that burned the mom at the stake. Okay. And she was like this little girl from like 15 years ago. And now she's this woman.
And she's vengeful.
Okay, so this is my word for you have to hear this story.
Okay.
So the war is coming to an end. She had to sever her arm because he had strung her up. So she severed her arm to get away, like Coyote, ugly style, like you bite your arm off. So she severs her arm to get away, goes and warns the people at the Citadel that he's coming and there's like this big trap. They enter this war. She builds this prosthetic arm. And at the end, the bad guy is like escaping with, 5 of his minions, right? They're like, escaping into the wasteland.
Pictured actual minions, like
the little guys.
Beetle.
Banana. Yeah. Banana. So he's escaping and she goes out into the area where everybody's, and she steals a car from like the head people and starts chasing them. And so the bad guy who burned her mom and all these things is like going with his cronies. Yeah. And all of a sudden, like 2 of them get popped, like headshots, pop. And they're like, stop the bikes. And he crawls up the stand, dude, and like looks with his telescope and like comes back and he sees this car coming. And somebody's like, who is it? And his line was like, someone competent and excessively vengeful. And that was this whole thing, because this girl had been waiting 15 years to avenge the mom, and like from across the desert snipes these guys. And so he knows whoever's coming for him is capable, like ferociously capable.
She just killed off 2 of his men.
Yes, on bikes, the whole thing. And she's coming forward and he's like, and excessively vengeful. And I saw that and it brought tears to my eyes. I was like, that is my 2025. Competent and excessively vengeful. It's like,
I appreciate that. Mine is to be present.
I know.
Competent and excessively vengeful. I appreciate that. I can have an appreciation for that.
Did you ever read Not Great Expectations, Count of Monte Cristo?
I don't know that I have.
So it's an old school, like really old classic book,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And this guy has this estate and then gets, like thrown in jail because the guy who runs, like the governor of the area or something who runs it wants his wife. So he throws this guy in jail, I think, and like takes his wife and like takes his estate, and he tunnels out of the prison because he meets this old man who's like, I know where this fortune is. He's like, you're a crazy old man in jail. And he's like, no, I do. So he convinces him, and it turns out the guy wasn't lying. So he's been in jail for umpteen whatever time, goes and finds this fortune where the guy said it would be, and becomes this super rich guy. And thus ensues his revenge story. He introduces himself as like this count who's like really rich, and people don't know where he came from. And at one point in the book, somebody asks him like, why are you doing this? And I believe the line was, it's complicated. And we put that when I was in college and on the rowing team, and we were in the midst of this undefeated dynasty, and we put on our team shirts, it's complicated on the back, right? So it's like, why are you doing this? It's like, it's complicated, right? And I still remember that, or I still think about that now when people are like, wait, why are you doing this podcast? It's like, it's complicated.
I feel that way sometimes too, when you're like spinning your wheels with anything in work. You're like, why am I doing this? Well, it's a long story. It's complicated. Now that's going to play in my head. Thank you. I love that.
But you're somebody who I feel like this makes sense to you because you and I feel like are cut from the same cloth, where it's like we're so driven to this thing that maybe not made sense to anyone.
Nope.
And like, even when it starts working, it still doesn't make, like the number of people that ask like, what are you doing? Or like, how are you doing it? It's like, I don't know, but it's complicated. Like there's no easy answer to respond to like what is happening.
Absolutely. Well, and I feel like sometimes our passion for what we do overrides that rational part of our brain that's like, hey, you might need a rest, or hey, you might want to assess. No, I have something I'm trying to do.
Bear down.
Yeah. I will ignore this until I burn into the ground.
I'm trying to I should do more present. You know what I'm very happy about from last year is
what?
I was at a entrepreneurs thing, and we were all talking about like our wins and failures and everything from the year. And one of my wins is like, okay, I've done a lot of stuff. I did a lot of stuff in 2024, way more to do in 2025, way more to do until I die, right? Like I haven't accomplished anything, big yet. But one thing that I said is like, I'm at home 5 o'clock every day for dinner and to like take my kids to swimming and water polo and whatever. So like that is a piece that I've held on to that I felt like it was really important that I didn't want to capitulate on. And you obviously are very similar. Like you're up to like midnight doing all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
But you're still there. You're still there for the peeps.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think I have such a unique opportunity. I mean, the chamber is wonderful, and they give me all of the freedom to still be a homeschool mom and still be present with my kids and allow them to be with me and experience what this life looks like. And so I am eternally grateful for that opportunity. But I feel like that's allowed me to have that balance, is otherwise I would be spinning my wheels in every direction and not really accomplishing anything. So I'm able to accomplish the work things, but it's also because I'm able to be mom and feel present there and feel present with my family. And, we are cut from the same cloth because I feel you. There's so much coming in 2025 though. Like last year feels like laying groundwork for just this crazy trajectory of 2025 and until we die.
You know, it's funny. You and I were both on that. You and I were both at this time last year.
Life
you and I were
so
both
different.
we're working and we're doing it. But
And we
it's
met
like
this time last year.
We did, which was so great. And when we met, you were here with the Crime Stoppers.
I was.
And you were like sitting in the corner, and I was like, who are you? Because you were like, and I'm like, hey, like you seem high energy. Like I like that. And we started chatting, but like you were just running social media stuff for people and, doing really good work. Everybody I bumped into, they're like, oh, you met Brandy. Like, oh yeah, we love Brandy. Like a bunch of friends that I have that are in the chamber. And at the beginning of 2024, like the most impressive thing I had done was interview like the Eagle Mayor. Right. And then I was like, oh, I'll get Brandy from the chamber. I remember I sent you guys a message. I was like, I'd love to have the Eagle Chamber on. But then our lives both like right around the middle of the year is like everything just lit on fire.
I blacked out everything. I literally look back and it still feels like it's August or September, but somehow we are in January already. And I'm like, whoa, that was like a whirlwind of all the things that could have happened that I never anticipated. I mean, I was with you at our golf tournament. Oh my gosh, in the golf cart.
Oh my God.
And you were like, I'm going to hit 4,000 followers today. And I was like, I get to be with you while you're hitting 4,000. This is so cool.
What, that was May or something?
That was May 17th of 2024. It was a Friday.
It was cold that day, too.
It was freezing. We were trying to find sweatshirts in my car, and I was like, I have a woman's small. That's all I have. And you're like, well, this is not going to work.
Do you remember we went to we passed one of the booths and they had like polo shirts and they're like, here, do you want a polo shirt? I was like, oh, I'd love one. That's great.
You put it over your clothes.
Like, oh my God, I'm freezing to death. And you kept going up and you're like, hey guys, can we take a picture?
Yeah.
I remember, and I had hit, I started that year, I started 2024 really trying to understand how to like interact with the content I would get. I'm like, I have these great conversations. Like, what do I do with them? Right. Because you can obviously put them up on YouTube, but it was at the beginning of 24 when I'm like, maybe I should lean into more clips. Like maybe the clips are really it. Cause I think this time last year I had, I don't know, like 500 followers on Instagram or something.
In that realm.
It's like 500 to 1,000 followers.
Yeah, somewhere like that. Because I think your Instagram was somewhere in like the 1,200, 1,500 range. But you were still gaining some good traction at the time.
Right. I was getting there, but I didn't know how to use that medium.
Like blew up once you honed in on what you were doing. Like, not that you weren't. That sounds horrible when I say it like that.
No, but it's true.
But like, once you like figured out how to like launch it, it launched hard. Yeah. And you saw like your path to the trajectory path of that was insane. Right. And that's coming from somebody with a background in social media, watching you go. And every time I watch you like inch up and then you were like a foot, you would jump feet at a time. And it was like, oh, holy guacamole, what is even happening? Like, how is this real?
Yeah. Again, thank you. But
absolutely.
Like, it was one of those things where like nobody really knows. You know what's interesting about social media? It's hyper visible. It's hyper, and it's very clear when somebody has the right recipe.
Yeah.
But finding the recipe for you is always different.
Because it's different for everybody.
It's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Do you know the guy, the barfly guy?
No.
Oh my God, this old salty dude with like this nasty ratty beard. He must own a motel chain or something because his content is him making like meals in a motel bathroom. So he's like doing sous vide in the trash can.
I'm sorry, no.
Like he has the most ridiculous.
But you like watching all that stuff because I sent you the Indian compilation of all of them cooking all of this street food, and I was like, Matt's gonna love this.
It's so great. Like, it's funny stuff.
You have a thing. You have like a.
I can't help it when it comes to food. I can't help it.
Have you seen? There is this chef. Okay, he's the one that I got the jalapeno crema recipe from. He actually is a chef for a like women's sorority. Okay. So like he cooks meals at the sorority house, but then he shows like what he makes himself at home. And he is incredible, but he's like this old hippie dude. And it is, I mean, I'm sure 420 is a theme, just judging by the amazingness of the food and the things. I'm like, you had to have some creativity behind that one. But like, he's so cool. And so I can imagine why you enjoy that food content, because I can't like peel my eyes off of it.
There's something about it. And it's never like, I don't know.
So who's
but the point
dude?
So it's the barfly guy. And you watch these videos, you're like, why does this work? And that's, I think, one of the things that 24 taught me was like, okay, you're going to have to find your thing and your recipe. And like, don't try to do what other people are doing. Like, you got to do you. Like, find out
of authenticity.
Yeah. Like, you got to be you. And understanding that and then leaning into it, it's like, okay, I think this is me. And then having it take off, it's like, okay, great. And I see other people. What's very interesting is the thing that I do, which is like, you know, the thought leadership clips and like long format stuff. It's not like I invented this, but I found a niche within it, which I think is really interesting. And then understanding why that niche might be working or responding. Part of it's, part of its personality, obviously, but then just part of it is like, okay, you have a personality, you have these clips, or you have this video, how do you make this into something that people voluntarily ingest, right? And understanding how to work with Instagram, that's the other thing. It's like you're dealing with this ever-changing algorithm that you don't understand.
The beast.
Like I was telling you before we start rolling, like I had this hour conversation the other day where it's like, I don't even know how many views I get. Like I know the views that I see off of Instagram, and that's in the millions, and it's like great, but that doesn't account for like all of these other shares. It doesn't account for all of these other, pieces. And
platforms.
It's like, I don't even know, like I don't even understand this mechanism, but it's this like behemoth that I'm messing around with. It's like super interesting.
It is very intriguing, and it's a constant changing beast, and you have to be willing to weave and bobble with it in order to find its functionality, to find where you fit within it, and to find that like sweet spot that you were mentioning. But yeah, that was 24 though for us as well. It was the year of authenticity, finding out like as a chamber, what made us authentically us? What are things that we find to be true? And how do we really hone in on those things? How do we provide that value? And not feel like we have to be a different entity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are we doing great? What is setting us apart? And how do we really, hold on to that tight and just push forward with it?
Right. It's like I took physics in high school, and I remember we were going over frequencies and wavelengths and amplitudes. Yes. And one of the things he showed us was a bridge, and I can't remember where the bridge was from, but it was a video. And they're like, they have to engineer bridges to be able to withstand winds. And it's like, because there's this classic example that they had a video of this bridge, and the wind came in at just the right speed and it started resonating with the bridge. So you see this like suspension bridge going like this. Yep. And then as the wind picked up, they increased the force and like amplitude or something, and the bridge tore itself apart. And I feel like that's what we both did. It's like, okay, find just the right frequency and then turn the volume up.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people reverse those things. They try to get a broad signal, like turn the volume up.
And then hone in.
Yeah. But it's like, you have to do the heavy work, the heavy lift of like, what's going to resonate just right. And then do more of that and do it better.
Absolutely.
And people are like, I see people all the time who've, either, engaged some kind of marketing firm. They're like, oh, I have 50,000 followers. It's like, do you? Because you get like 500 views on every video. Like you don't really have. And they just keep pushing some more stuff out. They're like, this is great stuff. I know what I'm making is great. I just need to put more of this out or get more people to view it. And it's like, you should listen to the people. Don't you? Like, that's one of the most painful, honest things about social media in my mind. And I'd love to know what you think, because it will tell you, it's like your baby's ugly and people anonymously vote all day, every day.
Yep. If you're willing to listen, they will tell you what they want. And it comes down to too, like one of our big campaign things with the chamber has been, we don't know what we're doing wrong unless you tell us. So we genuinely want to know, what feedback do you have? What things would you like to see as a member? Because I can imagine I was a member at one point. I was somebody who was in that realm, and I know what I needed from the chamber. So I think that's where my mindset always comes from, is what would I have wanted if it were me in this scenario as a business owner, as a development person. So the more we can get feedback and the more you can truly listen and apply that feedback, the greater the product you're going to have is. Right. So like our members, one of the fun things that we started doing is we have a mascot, obviously, the calendar, Orville the Eagle. And people love seeing him. So the more feedback we gained of like, hey, is Orville going to be at this ribbon cutting? Is Orville going to be at this event?
He is now.
Well, exactly. That's truly what it turned into, is like, yeah, sure, we can bring him. So we actually are creating a form on our website for people who want Orville at, even if it's there like, hey, we're going to have this anniversary. We'd love for Orville to stop by. And as members, like, hey, we'd be happy to coordinate that. And find like, so we took that piece of feedback of like, we'd love to see him more. And how do we apply that to where people can actually have a way of asking for that? So taking feedback, applying it has definitely been something that we have focused on, and we're trying to focus on, because we're not going to ever be perfect.
Right.
But if we don't know how to fix those kinks, we're never going to be able to serve more people or serve people better. We always look at it as we're not serving in our entire membership. We're serving one member at a time. And if we don't hear their voice, then we don't know how we're serving them.
Yeah.
I know I just threw a lot of words at you.
No. It's really interesting because I think also inherent in that is the assumption that people know what they want. Right. And Jobs actually had a great, Steve Jobs had a great line where he's like, it's not the consumer's job to know what the consumer wants. It's our job to know what they want and give it to them. And especially from either a product or service or from a social media standpoint, it's like, if you asked me before I had ever seen Indian street food videos, like, what would you like to watch? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know. Right.
Yep.
But then once you're exposed to it, you're like, oh, I like this.
Yep.
And you may not even know. It was like, I was seeing them a while before I realized of myself. I'm like, oh, you like this. Like, you like it for some reason you don't understand.
Yes.
You can't look away from the guy with the bucket. Right. I don't even know why it's interesting to me. It drives me nuts. I don't know why. but when dealing with consumers and when dealing with people that are looking for, especially social media, it's like, you're going to have to figure out what people want, and they're going to tell you with their views. They're going to tell you their interactions. You're not going to guilt them into liking something. Like,
well, and you can't manipulate that. It's so funny how honest it is. And now that it also excludes the bots, the trolls, the people that are just out there because they're sad about their life and they live in their mom's basement. Like, you have to kind of, at some point, they're just kind of being bullies.
Sure.
The ones, but like they're...
I had somebody this morning give me like a bunch of flip off emojis and like, go back to California. And it was like, the clip wasn't even of me. It was like a native Idahoan. I'm like, she's funny. From here, man. Like,
you're like, don't get it twisted.
And I just like, and of course you click on those and it's like, they're following 1,000 people. They have 20 followers. They have 0 posts. It's like, you're not even a person. Like, block.
Well, and that's the hard part, is ruling out those pieces that convolute the actual feedback you're getting. Because everybody has those types of people that are commenting, but the people that are engaged, that actually give you really good feedback, honoring them by listening and putting that feedback into place is never a bad thing. Like, there's things that we try that, as like, I think of the chamber realm, like this calendar.
Sure.
I threw out an idea. It may or may not work. And this was May of last year. And then it gained traction and people seemed interested. And then it became this thing that has its own legs now.
Sure. Yeah,
but you don't know unless you throw out an idea and you try it. Like with everything you were doing with social media, you had to try things.
Over.
And fail
over,
and fail
over,
and fail
over,
until you win. And then when you win, you're like, okay, what did I win? What did I win? How did it win? What made it win?
Yeah, right.
And you try, and like that also propels, I feel like you and I have that personality that little win propels you to go, okay, I'm going to overanalyze this for the next like week and I'm going to dwell on it, but I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to try to replicate it. And it's a problem solving, and it's neat because I see you do that and you do it very well. But you also have that like problem solving mind.
Right.
And you enjoy them.
One big problem I think that people run into as well, there's a balance between, you have to give people what they want because you know they want it because they're responding to it.
Yes.
But also you can't let that drive what you are.
Correct.
You can't 100% be like, okay, for instance, this was a really, really instructive moment in my journey. So I think this was around, it was like April or May, right around the 4,000 mark. Okay. What I had done is I had done a podcast with a gal who was from Idaho Power about the cloud seeding program. And I put a clip out, and that was one of my big clips from like the first half of the year.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I was like, oh my God, like 100,000 people watch this or something. And that came out and I got like 500 followers or something. People chunked onto that. They're like, oh, this is crazy. Like, it's wild that you have this information. And immediately I was like, oh, maybe I should have more clips of her. But the platform that I wanted to build was one of varied topics, right? It's not just one platform for people that are like hardcore about the cloud seeding argument. It has to be from everything. So even though I saw that one clip sitting there with 100,000 people, I was like, you got to put out the education clip, or you got to put out, the political clip, or you got to put out the law enforcement clip.
You had to honor what your intention was.
Right. So I think sometimes people go down a rabbit hole of like, let's just produce this one thing over and over and over because it resonated and they keep trying to chase that thing. And I think that's a mistake too. Like, you have to know, like, okay, people do like this. Like, my kids like ice cream. They can't just have ice cream. because that's not the parent I want to be. Now, my followers are not like my kids or anything. I'm just saying when I have a decision, you need to balance it out. You need to balance it out. Unless you're the person who's like, I'm totally cool with doing ice cream every single meal. That's fine too. But you also very much limit yourself.
Yes.
Then you can't have broad conversations. Then the other things that are important outside of cloud seeding or outside of ice cream or whatever, it's like, then you don't get to have those conversations. So you need, what I've ultimately realized is instead of the audience driving me, I need to drive the audience. And the audience that I've collecting is one that enjoys a varied topic, Idaho-centered, leadership-oriented piece of content, right? Like they want Idaho leaders. They want Idaho leaders talking about these things that are relevant to them. And that's the audience that I grow.
Absolutely, right? You do. Well, and you do it very well. We actually had somebody come in the chamber office, and shout out to him because that was so neat to have him come give feedback directly and how much he really actually enjoyed your platform and how you remain very much like Switzerland. You are a neutral party that allows people to give information, and you are a portal of dissemination. You just give people the opportunity to share what they're doing and what they're passionate about. And it's so refreshing because we don't necessarily live in a world where you have somebody just giving people a platform or giving the opportunity to let people think for themselves.
Right.
So you do that very well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Really interesting on this though. Everybody says they want unbiased, but if you do it, everybody gets mad. Like, so I had recent episodes with Dr. John Tribble and Dr. Pate. You know, one was for one side of, you know, what we all went through, and the other's on the other side of what we all went through. And they're both doctors, right? I don't think Dr. Pate is practicing anymore, but he was the CEO of St. Luke's Health, like all of this stuff, right? And no matter what, people are mad on both sides. Both people, I was like, I guess I must be over the target because like, people are furious, like whichever one I put out, people are mad about it. And that's really funny. And it's like, listen, I responded to somebody the other day. They're like, every time I think I'm going to, start watching this podcast, he has somebody on that's just a complete wacko. And this was a comment on Instagram. I'm like,
I was hoping it was on one of my videos. Yes, he does.
It was my guy, Eli, with the American flag cowboy hat on. Yeah. And I was like, and I responded to him, I was like, hey man, like I really appreciate the comment. It is really hard because you might think this guy is a wacko. But one, I don't think he's a wacko. I think he disagrees with you. He's not a crazy person though. And like, I'm trying to offer balance.
He didn't come with a hospital wristband.
No, like he works in corrections in Canyon County. He's from Southern California. He doesn't agree with the culture. He's Hispanic. He doesn't agree with the culture that surrounds like the Hispanic community in Southern California. He used to be, Democrat leaning, and now he's not because he was part of the Lexit, the Latino exit from the Democratic Party. He's like, because they don't, and we talked about this. Why are Latinos leaving the Democratic Party? And it's cultural problems, commentary about, victim mentality. Like these are his opinions. You don't agree. That's fine. But he's not crazy for thinking this way. And the real problem is you think he's crazy without listening to him. Like he's a reasonable person. You can disagree and both be reasonable. But if you just say anybody who doesn't agree with me is crazy, then what does that make you?
Well, then we never have the opportunity for a conversation.
Right.
But that also means that we are now not behaving like reasonable adults, right? Like we have to look at ourselves in the face and be like, okay, does this make me a better person for disagreeing automatically with this person and not listening to them? No, it doesn't. It doesn't make me reasonable and it doesn't make me right. But unfortunately, sometimes that's the mentality.
Check this out. You, again, when we met at the beginning of 24, you were doing social media stuff for a bunch of different organizations on point, like working your tail off. Now you're the executive director of Eagle Chamber. One mentality that I think is coming, it has to be resolved, is the idea that like you're only going to be successful if you go to college. You did not go to college.
I went to college and then my life got turned upside down. I feel like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air right now.
Oh my God.
No, I didn't. I went to college for a while. My brain just doesn't work the same way as everyone else's. And so my own ADHD and me going and working full time. I was working full time at Disney at the time, in addition to teaching dance classes. on the side. And my husband and I had just gotten engaged. So we had like all of these life things happening. And I went, you know what? I'm working already. I have a good job. I'm making good money. Like, I don't need this degree.
What's the ROI?
Yeah.
Right.
What's the time, especially if I'm spinning my wheels and like I'm having to put myself through such intense stress for this thing. Why am I doing it?
Right.
So I went, okay, cool. I'm not going to do it. And I decided that if I'm not going to do it, I have to put my nose to the ground and I have to hustle and I have to grind and I have to learn everything that somebody's willing to teach me. And that's just kind of what I've done. I've worked my butt off learning anything and everything I could to gain knowledge. And that knowledge pours into the next job. And the knowledge I learned at that job pours into the next thing. And it's just one of these things I've learned while I've grown in these positions, and it's given me a beautiful opportunity to have a job that I never would have anticipated. And it obviously goes to show that, you know, initiative and hard work and willingness to learn those things on the job is sometimes can work.
Willingness and willfulness.
Yes.
Like,
I'm also a crazy person who will work all night long to finish a project.
It's force of will. Like, that's one of the things reflecting on 24.
Here's a good example. I have a sleeping little boy on my lap. We are going to be here no matter what. And it's that grit though, I think.
Yeah.
And I was raised with a mother who worked her butt off all the time, a dad who worked his butt off all the time. And I just got to see parents who put in hard work and reaped the benefits of hard work. So, you know, hopefully my kids see that from their parents, and you know, we instill that in the next generation, because that's not something that is necessarily teachable at a later age. I feel like you see it and it's something that's just kind of inbred in you.
I have like a step uncle. Okay, so it's like my stepmom's brother-in-law.
Okay, yeah. I have step uncles and step cousins.
There you go. And he's a professor, like head of a department or something at a university in New Mexico. Okay, and I saw him recently, and I was chatting with my dad, and he about college, right? We were talking about the fact that college graduates out-earn the average high school graduate by like, you know, $1 million over a lifetime. Okay. And my dad kept saying, yeah, but what about the trades? And he's like, no, I'm not teasing that out. I'm just saying, like, you have the group that goes to college and you have the group that doesn't go to college, and these people that go to college out-earn the people that don't go to college, right? And again, he kept repeating this, and my dad, who was trying to get across a point, ultimately the issue is, look, the people that go to college are you're self-selecting successful people already, because there's a barrier to entry to get into college. So you're taking the top portion of whoever out of that school, and they are going to invest in themselves in this certain way. If you eliminated college, you could make the argument that top portion of people, they're still that's right. But we always have this correlated that we argue as causation, like I'm trying to make with your case, which is, okay, we always think that it's the college that made that person successful, when in reality, there's an inherent success that person is probably going to carry around with them, right? And if you compare then, let's say the trades, where you're like, okay, this person didn't want to go to college, but they did commit themselves to something. They were like educating themselves, blah, 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 blah. Like, that disparity changes very, very quickly. And again, even if you eliminate all categories, you're going to have a certain top 20% of the population that is going to make more money more successfully, whatever it might be. And you essentially, the thing that I was thinking about from 24, it's like, okay, how did Brandy go from being just this social media gal that like I was happy to chat with and meet, to like revolutionizing the chamber and changing that stuff and being the ED? But like, that's the point. It's like, you can't, there's a correlation, but I think nationally we have to come to terms with this is not causation. You can go waste a dump truck of money and time, not to say that's everything. Like, I studied liberal arts. I studied rhetoric. I very much appreciate my ability to communicate. It has served me very well. But this whole thing didn't come from my rhetoric degree. This whole thing came from me getting on YouTube and being like, how do I produce a podcast? Like, all the audio video is all self-taught, force of will. Right? And same thing with you. Like my degree doesn't do me anything if I don't have that force of will to push across the finish line.
Absolutely. It's always interesting for me to look at myself against my peers, because I look at a lot of, naturally we compare ourselves to others as humans. It's human nature. And I look and I very often I go, where'd you go to school? And I go, well, I didn't. I mean, I went to community college. What do you mean you didn't go to school? And it's always funny because there's an automatic assumption that I went to school and got a degree in marketing or got a degree in all of these other things. No, I got a degree in the hard knocks of life, But I compare myself to others, and I had to stop because I'm not everyone else. And that's okay. And I have to be okay with not being everyone else, and knowing that like my grit gets me through the day, my problem solving abilities. If I see something, I'm going to fix it, or I'm going to figure out how to fix it if I don't know how, or we'll hire the person to fix it if I can't figure it out, But like there's so many jobs that require degrees. I would never want a doctor that doesn't have a degree, or, my lawyer goes to school for a reason, because that's not something I can handle myself. So happily, allow them to have their degree. But I feel like in my realm, there's a portion of this that feels so much like a fire that has to be burning in you. You have to have the initiative. You have to have that like for what you're doing. And school could never have taught me that. I could have learned marketing techniques and business, how to run a business and how to be a good leader. And there's tons of things. And I listen to audiobooks all the time, and I have really amazing people surrounding me, because I would be lying if I said that I could do this all by myself and that I didn't have a team of people behind me making this possible. I mean, my president of the board alone, the amount of conversations that I've had with him since I took over this role, because he has been like a backbone for me. I can depend on him. I can ask him all the questions, but he also at some point is allowing me to soar and to leap and to do things and try things, even if it's not necessarily something we've done in the past. So
what a flexibility.
Oh my gosh.
Why are you doing this? I think it's work. What happened last time? I don't know. We've never done it.
Well, like
trust me.
The calendar again is a great a great example of that. Like, we've never done this. Do you guys trust me? It's going to cost us $4,000. Like, okay, Brandy, we trust you if you think this is going to work. And you know what? It has been so well received. Or building of a sponsorship packet, the amount of I built a website out and I built all of the deliverables and all the pieces. And there was no guarantee that all that time that they were paying me for was going to pay off.
Right.
But looking at the final product, it's like, I am so fortunate that I have a group of people that sees the capacity in which I perform. They've watched me do this. They trust me. And they're my backbone. So I feel like even with the school conversation, there's always need to be a team of people supporting you. Like, you have a board of directors, right? For your nonprofit now.
Yes.
You have people that you're like, hey, I need a gut check. I need to check on these things. So don't kid yourself. Even with or without a degree, I think a lot of this is, what is the community that's surrounding you? What is that village that you're surrounding yourself with? Because they're going to either empower you or they're going to take you down with them.
Right. And I think one of the interesting things about that community is that my board are two dudes that are way smarter than I am. And they've been around and they know stuff. And I think the key was for me with them was especially be somebody that these retired, well-to-do guys want to be around, right? Not in a manipulative way, but be worthy of their answers. When you ask them a question, if I call somebody, it's call one of my board members. Jeff Taylor is one of my board members. And he was CFO for St. Luke's for 30 years or something.
Right.
He had this crazy career. And it's here's a dude who knows a lot. And you better be worthy of Jeff's time when you call him. Now, he's never, it's not like we're not friends. We're friends, but you need to be worthy of those people. Because if you're not going to get their expertise. If you're doing something for the wrong reasons, you're not going to get them behind you.
Intention has a smell.
Right.
Intention has a smell. When you are going at something wholeheartedly and you are invested and you are putting your blood, sweat, and tears in, people smell it. People see it. And you know what? We attract what we put out in the world. I like to think that I put out sunshine and hope that like if
sunshine finds you.
Yes. I hope that the people that are similar to me, that they see it and they pick up on it and they want to surround me and support me. And I just feel like we get what we put out. So if you're being ingenuine, you know, you get ingenuine people surrounding you, but usually when you are doing things and you're in it for the right reason, people can sniff that out and they support it.
Right. I had the reason we did a nonprofit is because I was telling Jeff and other people. I mean, obviously, once I flushed out, like, okay, because a lot of people said, like, why don't you just do standard sponsors? Like, as things really took off last year, there was a lot of interest with, like, okay, what are you doing, right? Like, what are you doing? How are you going to maintain this? And one of the God
okay,
bless it.
It's just as bad as when they were little. I would be eating like a cheeseburger and then it would drip on them and I'd be like, my bad. Sorry, kid. You do what you got to do when you are in the trenches, Matt. You do not get to judge. I probably didn't need to give you the visual, but you're welcome.
God,
there were many Thousand Island haircuts.
Oh my God. Oh.
Sorry. Okay. So the reason
it's so great. I love parenting. It's just such a
thing
human
ever.
experience. It's
it
like
humbles you
so fundamentally. Like it's us. Like this is how we're human, right? We make babies and continue on.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you made it a nonprofit.
Yeah. So we made a nonprofit and a bunch of people were like, why don't you just go for profit?
Right.
Like, you're dealing with millions of views. Like, why don't you go for profit? And what I really, as you're pointing out, I was having a conversation with Jeff. He's like, I can hear that you don't want, like, I can feel it. Like you don't want to do that. And predominantly because the second you go for profit, that's how we got into this problem in the first place. Like the news media is for profit.
Right.
Right. And they are driven by competing against people on social media that are also for profit and really just looking for views. That's why you got the whole, like the federal government's funding cobalt mines to take over like our water supply and kill the Idaho farmer. Like that's a complete lie. It's an absolute complete lie. It's unbelievable. It's still going on. Excuse me. The president of the Water Users Association actually sent me a clip. He was like, it's still getting play. He was like, some guy in North Carolina found the conspiracy, did this whole video because like he needs to get views. And he's like, I'm in North Carolina, but I'm gonna talk about the cobalt mines in Idaho.
Right.
He has no idea. And I was like, if I go for profit and I start getting sponsorships from these various places, there's a high probability that those sponsorships will come with strings attached. That's right. And the second we do that, we all lose because we all want a media base that shows leaders with no strings attached. Everyone wants that, but nobody knows how to get that. It's like, that's what we're doing. We're creating it, but it can't be for profit. Like I understand that I could go to Shields and like start a conversation or Cabela's or whoever and be like, hey, Zamzos, like I have a big audience. Like, would you like to be a sponsor? Like I could go to these people, but to what end? Right? Like we need to make the thing we want. It's like Gandhi, right? Be the change you want in the world. I really believe that.
You want authenticity in the communication platform. You want people to not feel like they're jaded. You don't want people to go, oh, well, he got a big check from that. I don't know if I can trust him anymore.
Right.
You want people to know that what you are producing is honest and it's truthful and it's transparent.
Right. That's the point. And if we don't have that, like there was one person who invited me, actually, I got a political person who was like, hey, my political party would really like to support your platform. And I was like, oh, like, that's great. And instantaneously, I was like, wait a minute. If that political party or that political group supports the platform, like what they're describing, like if they want me to have somebody on, I'm going to have that person on. Or if they want me to like, they're like, hey, don't talk to that person, please. I'm going to have to like not talk to that person. And I had to turn it down. I was like, I can't, like, thank you. I would love
conscience.
I was like, I would love to have you on. I would love to have all of you on, but I need to be able to have the other people on too. Right. And it was all in good faith. There was not like, hey, have this, but I was like, I could see this being a problem. And I don't want you to feel like, I don't want to give you the wrong idea.
You want to be truthful and honest. But you also want to, if somebody's partnering with you, provide exceptional service.
Right.
And be a good partner to that person.
Right. And here's what I want. Like I had Ron Nate on, who's the president of IFF, classically a very, very hard conservative group, right? And they're very, very intense about their positions. And yesterday I had Lauren Necochea on, who's the head, the leader of the Democratic Party in the state of Idaho. It's like, I need to be able to have both those people on and go to bed at night and be like, I would love to have both of you on again.
Yeah.
Because there's no other, like, the people that are talking to Ron Nate never hear Lauren Necochea. The people that are talking to Lauren Necochea never hear Ron Nate. And these two people are at odds, I think, at like every policy point, but they're both good. Like, that's fine. Like,
but you're giving them a platform to be able to speak what they believe is their truth.
Right. Right. Just explain this to me.
Yes.
And like, I'm not even going to argue with you. Like, you're going to have to explain it to me.
When you said that, I immediately thought of the clip of The Office when Michael's like, explain this to me like I'm 5. And sorry, in my head, that clip started playing. So you're welcome.
That's literally what I tell people sometimes. I was like, explain it to me like I'm a kindergartner.
Yes.
And they're like, okay, so here it is.
All right.
I didn't see that episode, I guess. Or maybe I saw it and I just like missed it.
I've also watched, well, okay, I can't say watch because it's like on in the background and then I like poke my head in when it's a good part. But like, I've watched that entire series more times than I could probably admit to. And it's one of the most quotable things in our house. Like, anytime our kids are running around, my husband just yells, parkour.
Parkour.
Yeah. And like pretends to jump off something and pretend like he's Andy in that situation. No, it's my mom just started actually watching it. So she's never
great.
like, it's not her sense of humor per se. So when she started watching it, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And she's like, gosh.
It's over, right? Like, they discontinued
Oh,
it,
they have.
like,
They've
years
talked
ago.
about bringing it back for like a re-up or doing a series or like some sort of
They were going to do
something.
they were going to do The Farm. So there was a pilot where the show followed Dwight.
Okay.
And that was like him operating on his beet farm. Yeah, but I guess it didn't take off. I mean, like, Dwight.
It's nothing without Steve Carell. That's the problem. Like, when they changed over to Will Ferrell as the boss for a little bit there as like D'Angelo for the day, and then he got in the car accident. And then they brought in that other California. Yeah. And then they brought in, and then they like, anytime they brought somebody else in, it never felt the same.
Yeah, because Dwight was the manager for
at the end,
right?
Yeah, like, at the end there.
Thing, yeah.
Well, and then he's like, I love the last episode. Spoiler alert. Sorry, everybody. When he you show all of the investment in the relationship like Pam and Jim have built with him at the end when he's like, no, you're fired. And he's like, no, Dwight, I'm just trying to, like, you don't need to be upset that we're He goes, no, stop. You're going to get a severance package and we're going to, like, let me do this.
Right.
Like, let me do something for you.
There was that beautiful scene when Dwight was, Dwight had become manager and he'd become this draconian crazy.
Oh my God, I love that.
Right?
When he was giving Dwight bucks.
Yeah, and he was making Jim eat. He's like, he wanted to increase efficiency, so he makes us eat lunch at separate times, which is really hard to break up your day when you have to eat lunch at 9:30 in the morning. And Jim's like eating his sandwich like... Yeah. Right. And he was doing all kinds of weird things. Like, he rolled out a banner in front of the windows and people couldn't see out the window.
And then they couldn't turn the thermometer when he bought the building.
Thermostat, yes, when he bought the building, the whole thing. And the people were getting mad at Pam because Pam was the office manager or like whatever. And he was the actual manager. So she was like this office manager and people were getting mad at her and she was going to get fired. And Dwight realized this and he told his lackey friend that there was like this loophole in the lease and that his lackey friend had to tell Pam. Yeah. And then Pam could like puff up her chest and come like take down Dwight essentially. And he's like telling him this in the stairwells. He's like, you got to go tell her this. And he's like, why would I do this? Yeah. And again, it's like they had this, you know, always kind of like conflicting, stressed relationship, but you realized it's kind of like marriage. Like, you're tense. There's this tension, but you're still the person. Like, you're still my coworker. You're still my spouse.
My gosh.
Or
my favorite though. Well, and you watch that relationship build. Yeah. You just think that they hate each other at first or like, he's so weird. They make fun of him, but you realize that there is a depth in that relationship that can't be explained, that cannot be replicated. My favorite.
I'll take the wizard. You remember that scene when he tried to buy the crystal wizard, but Dwight went to the store in the mall with the red hands.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And so they were like, Dwight, what happened? And so they had to do like
Pretty Woman.
Yes, they had to do the whole Pretty Woman thing.
And he comes in with the mustache.
Yeah.
Would like to buy the wizard.
Big mistake. And they all try to help him, like get, reconcile this struggle.
Do you remember?
And then at the end, he's like, I'll take the wizard. They're like, you don't get it. At the end of Pretty Woman, she doesn't buy the shoes.
Yes.
That was a great scene.
Innumerable episodes that live rent free in my head. Like oh my gosh, when Jim forgot that he played the CIA prank on Dwight and he had planted like letters. Dwight, this is it's you from the future. Today the coffee will be poisoned. Don't drink the coffee. And he goes and like smacks it out of people's hands.
And Stanley's like,
you're welcome.
Those were great. I appreciated that they made Stanley's character really, like, at some points he was the person you look to for like sanity, but then they also were sure to make him flawed. Like he was like, it's my way or the highway. And that's how it was for my first wife, my second wife, and my third wife. And then at the end, he's like living on a houseboat on a river, by himself. And Phyllis is like, look, it's me. He like carved her a little statue or something. And Phyllis like, Vance Electric. Jim Vance.
Bob, what do you do for work? Bob Vance. Vance Refrigeration.
Yeah. And when they merged with the other office.
Oh my gosh.
And she was like, who are you? She's like, Bob Vance. She's like, who's my, it's like, you have a lot to learn. And the girl's like, what? Who's the refrigeration guy?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love the fact that Phyllis and him, when they got married, it was literally a cut and paste of what Pam and other man, I can't remember his name, what her first fiance's wedding was looking like.
It was like Chris or something.
Something stupid. Stupid
something
name.
Dumb. Yeah.
Dumb Chris name. I think it taught us something interesting though about coworkers. Yeah. And like you haven't necessarily had that experience in the work realm. I mean, it's as good as it's gonna get. Like, all right, you're Michael, I'm Pam. This is where we're at.
Without hair plugs.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Did you see that whole first season when suddenly he got his hairline moved? I hate Jan. I can't go back to Jan.
Oh my.
When he dates Jan. Oh my gosh.
Jan. So the first we have too much to talk about. Listen, thank you for coming in today.
Absolutely.
I'm really happy we were able to do this like 24
Kicking off the
recap.
New year.
Because like I haven't gone through any like what happened last year with anyone. And you and I both experienced this like, oh, this is my life now. Like, oh, okay.
Yep.
And we started off the year, like hanging out in the golf cart. And now it's like you're the executive director and I have a studio downtown at the Capitol.
Oh my gosh. Yes. We'll have to record from there one day.
Oh, it's great.
It'll be
like,
awesome.
You do not know.
Tacos.
Oh, yeah. That's the other. So it's literally a block away from that 8th Street food area.
How cool.
It's wild. Like I didn't even realize how close it was till I came out. I'm like, oh, that's the pho place I love. Like, oh my God. I hadn't even oriented myself. Yeah. And when I was bringing the big panels, the mahogany panels in on the elevator, I had to be like,
you're like, please don't fall. Yeah. Please don't fall.
They're like, really? I'm like parked across the street, running across the street with these giant faux panels.
I should have been filming you.
Oh, it was so ridiculous, but it looks great. Like you don't even know it's a different studio.
Well, I look forward to it.
I look forward to it too. Thanks, Brandy.
Thank you.